Hey, thanks for pressing play and watching the Gouge. Everybody always asks me, hey, what's the Gouge? The Gouge is a military term, basically a black arts term. It's an informal way of passing information. We'd always get our Marines together and be like, hey, it's time to pass some Gouge. Also, too, Gouge means you dig in deep. You go below the surface. Same with this information. I give you information that's a little more below the surface, something that the mainstream media just isn't putting out, and I think everybody needs to know. My name is David Leslie. I'm a combat veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I was in from 98 to 06. I am a true Blackheart through and through, Fox Company, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I contracted for 7 years with the Department of Defense, all in Iraq, Afghanistan, wrapping things up in the Balkans. Had my fair share of many experiences. Came back to the States and definitely saw a lot of things that were going on and didn't like what I saw. So I started creating this. Started small and I'm slowly building up. So I hope you enjoy the information that I give you. And you know what? Thanks for giving me a chance to pass you some information. Just like last week when I said that we're going to be talking about Boko Haram, this terrorist group that just hit mainstream media. Went all throughout the news, kidnapping a little over 200 Nigerian girls from their schools, murdering the Nigerian boys on top of that, and they're planning on selling the children. So far, only half have actually been seen through media outlets when they put out their videos. Most terrorist organizations put out some kind of propaganda in order to show their dominance. And during that propaganda tape, only about half of the actual girls were seen. But what is Boko Haram? Boko Haram was founded in 2002 by Muslim cleric Mohammed Yusuf. Boko Haram either goes by that name or it goes by the people committed to the propagation of the Prophet's teaching and jihad. Now, a lot of people like to get on the news organizations and proclaim that jihad is a religious struggle that they have day to day in order to live by their teachings. Well, that is a form of jihad. That is definitely part of that definition. However, there's also another form of jihad, which is religious warfare. I believe that y'all are all intelligent enough to see exactly what form of jihad this organization and many organizations are performing around the world. Islamic groups, Islamic extremists are starting to become more and more mainstream oriented. They're getting more and more information out there. Now, understand, not every Muslim is an Islamic radical. Majority of the Muslim population are very peaceful. They do go by the Quran and live a very peaceful and productive life. There are those that are Islamic fundamentalists. They believe in the Sharia law and follow Sharia law to the letter of the law, sometimes almost manipulating it in order to fit their agenda. Now, some of the outspoken critics that are out there sit there and say that, you know, not all Muslims are terrorists, but majority of terrorist activities are performed by Muslims. This is very true. Boko Haram is one of them. However, we could have stopped Boko Haram. We could have stopped all these events. And I'm about to give you information as to how we could have stopped these events. We've known about Boko Haram since the founding, since 2002. Like I said, it was founded by a Muslim cleric, Mohammed Yusuf, who was later killed by the Nigerian government. During this time, they were able to get seed money. Now, this was proven in the 2011 raid for Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. They actually got documents. Al-Qaeda funded the seed money for Boko Haram to come to light. They gave him $3 million. Now, originally Boko Haram was created in Nigeria because of the economic poverty, which still consists to this day. The Nigerian people make an average of $2 a day. So $3 million to start an organization is a lot of money in that region of the world. Again, they were given that money through Al-Qaeda. They were specifically given that money through Osama bin Laden. They are also been funded through organizations in Saudi Arabia, organizations in the UK. They're also given money, funding money from the Islamic World Society and if I can say this correctly, Al-Muda Trust Fund. Now this is how they actually started getting their money in order to create their organization. Since then, they have turned to criminal activities in order to keep things going. Okay, but like I said, we knew about this, and there was documents to prove it. State Department and Department of Defense all got those documents. All right. Now, during this time from which they were founded to about 2013, it's been reported that Boko Haram killed a little over 10,000 individuals. 10,000. They're also a part of major attacks, major terrorist attacks. Some of those terrorist attacks were actually on UN compounds within that area. Boko Haram was responsible for it. They did their killings through bombings. That was one of their signature things. That's definitely one of their signature activities within that area because it's easy. And for most terrorist organizations, bombing is very easy. Being in Iraq and Afghanistan, it's something that they used widely. Whether it was an individual who volunteered to do it or somebody who was forced to do it and didn't control the detonation. Somebody else who was observing, their overwatch was the one that actually committed the detonation. Like I said, being in Afghanistan and Iraq for a combined 7 years, I saw it all. Okay, and Boko Haram definitely used those skills within Nigeria. Some of the most recent activity that they had, on April 14th of this past year, they killed 70 people. 70, all from a bombing. May 2nd of this past year, they killed 19 people, all from a bombing. Now this all was before they kidnapped those 200 Nigerian girls and murdered the boys within that school. Boko Haram doesn't believe in Western education and refuses any type of Western influence within Nigeria, including the Nigerian government. They believe that Nigeria should fall under Muslim law. They believe that Nigeria should follow Sharia law. As we all know, we've all seen, Sharia law is very strict. It is very discriminating and harmful to women. And we've seen it all throughout. I have personally seen with my own eyes Sharia law in action, the actual punishment of Sharia law on women in Iraq and in Afghanistan. So this is something that is definitely needs to come to light. I'll get into that in a little bit, and I'll actually touch very briefly on it. During 2002 and 2013, they were doing all their activities. Again, mainly some of it was bombing. There was also a few kidnappings, things like that. During such time, the Nigerian government was in full force in taking down Boko Haram and actually dispelling everything. When they actually murdered Mohammed Yusuf, they actually thought they took care of Boko Haram and actually got it out of action. What they did, however, is just make that organization even stronger and believe even deeper into their Islamic teachings and Sharia law, and it became actually more violent because of that. Here's the hypocrisy here. We all know through media outlets that Hillary Clinton, while she was a secretary for the State Department, had the ability to put them on a terrorist watch list, and refused, actually defended her choice not to put Boko Haram on the terrorist watch list. And their staff has been all out defending her claims. And now look at where we're at. The hypocrisy still even runs even deeper. In 2013, the White House and John Brennan downplayed Boko Haram. Made it out to be an organization that nobody needed to worry about. But here's the strange thing. That same year, the State Department placed a $7 million award on the arrest and capture of Boko Haram's new leader. Now, if you're going to downplay something publicly, but also turn around and place a $7 million bounty on the leadership of that organization, things don't seem to jive here. And you take it even an even step further. In 2013, when John Kerry became the Secretary of State, John Kerry actually criticized the Nigerian government for helping implement an organization like Boko Haram. Basically sitting there saying that because of the Nigerian government, Boko Haram was able to be created in that country and thrive. Now, that's the hypocrisy we're seeing internationally. And Boko Haram is definitely one of those. Now, here in the States, we have been very fortunate not to have very many terrorist activities. I understand that we, just got through the Boston bombing, obviously 9/11. When 9/11 happened, I was forward deployed with the 31st MU. So we have had our events as a country, but mainly our terrorist organizations here in America are homegrown. More or less, they're animal rights activists or environmental rights activists or abortion rights activists that actually create the terrorist activities that we see here in the nation. As far as international organizations coming over and doing attacks here in our mainland, it's very few, and it actually has gone down since the 1950s and 1960s, where we did have an upswing of terrorist activities from international organizations. But again, they knew there was a paper trail. The biggest key indicator of that paper trail was when they went to when those Navy SEALs went to take Osama bin Laden down in Pakistan. They found documentation proving the financial link from Al-Qaeda to Boko Haram. They knew it, and still chose not to put them on a terrorist watch list. Now, there's nothing sitting there saying that, if they were on a terrorist watch list, they still wouldn't be able to have done what they did do. However, being on a terrorist watch list does restrict their activities greatly and makes them, it basically puts their organization on the skyline. Another term we use in the Marine Corps, basically puts them on the skyline for international organizations, international police organizations, to actually watch and trail and track their activities and also follow the money. Now, that was something that's always been used. That's a statement that's always been used, is follow the money. If you ever want to know the truth, follow the money. Well, 2002, the United States should have been following the money, because $3 million was given to them by Osama bin Laden. All right. Now, what is the grand picture of everything? The biggest key indicator that I sit there and see is just absolute hypocrisy. The absolute hypocrisy from the top down within our federal government. And it not only affects us here at home as Americans, and affects our way of life, our economy, how we see each other as Americans, but also affects our ability internationally. Okay? Look at what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. Russia is one of our biggest adversaries, one of our biggest political adversaries, something that has been said through all the major elections, from Sarah Palin to Mitt Romney, and they even got criticized and ridiculed for it. And now look at where we're at. If we actually had international strength and international influence, then we would be able to stop that. We wouldn't have to use military force, nor even have to put that card on the table, because we would be able to implement good sanctions that have an end result in place that would actually keep Russia in line. However, we don't have that. And to even take the fact that we have lost so much international influence, one of our allies, France, has been known to be selling Russia naval warships. Now, if we were powerful internationally, would an ally be selling warships to one of our adversaries? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So we've lost a lot of international strength, something that doesn't come back easily. It just doesn't. Okay, it's just not like we're going to have our 2016 elections, we get a new president, whoever that may be, and then all of a sudden the international community is going to take us back in open arms and say, oh, America, we miss you. It doesn't work that way. And it's going to be a long time before we get that influence back. That influence has been destroyed through the hypocrisy that we're seeing right here, right now. That hypocrisy has led to 200 innocent girls being kidnapped, forced into slavery, sold on the black market, has forced 200, if not more, Nigerian boys to be murdered. Murdered boys at school. All because they were getting an education that had a Western influence. And basically what they mean by a Western influence is that educators from Europe or the UK or even the United States would come and actually teach them languages like English or French, math, sciences, history, actually give them a good education to help bring up their economy to where hopefully in the future the average Nigerian person isn't making $2 a day. They're making more than $2 a day. Boko Haram didn't agree with that. Okay, just like Boko Haram didn't agree with the Nigerian government because they feel like the Nigerian government does have Western influence. Nigeria is a very complicated country. Okay, their government is a very complicated government. They do have a lot of natural resources there within that country that can actually bring them up out of poverty. However, there is a certain level of corruption. But mind you, Boko Haram is furthering that corruption and creating an even deeper hardship on that country in order to pick itself up from its bootstraps. All right. Now again, this is an organization like many Islamic extremist organizations that thoroughly believe in Sharia law. Now, Sharia law wasn't a threat. Okay, think about that for a minute. If Sharia law wasn't a threat, then how come 7 states here in the United States have banned and outlawed Sharia law within their borders? 7. There are 25 more states that actually have amendments on the floor right now to ban Sharia law within their own borders. Now, mainstream media will like to sit there and tell you, well, it's because of the court systems. Sharia law and the court systems conflicts with our Constitution and our constitutional rights within our courts. They do have a valid point on that, but Sharia law goes even deeper. Okay, it goes into the hardships and the treatment of women. It goes into the hardship and treatment of children who fall under Sharia law. Okay, Sharia law is extremely oppressive to those individuals, and several people have tried to speak out about it and have been shut down numerously by people from the left and liberals and progressives here in this country that, for whatever reason, don't want to come out and state the obvious because they're afraid it's going to upset somebody. Well, you know what? You got to crack some eggs in order to make an omelet. All right? And we need to get out of our political correctness and start telling the truth and start telling each other the truth and start telling our government the truth, because our government needs to start telling us the truth, because we're not getting it. We're not even getting close to it. Absolutely we're not. Because you know what? There's been nowhere in mainstream media that has shown the link of Boko Haram with Al-Qaeda. Nowhere. Nowhere. Saudi Arabia is one of our allies in the Middle East, giving seed money to a known terrorist organization. Anybody could sit there and see the injustice to that. Plus, at the same time, the UK itself is under threat of Muslim extremists. 77% of that country, not only do they want immigration reform, they want immigration reduction. 77% of that country, because of everything that they're going through right now with the Muslim community that they have in their nation. Mainly Muslim extremists that they have in their nation. And mind you, we have it here in the United States as well too. Keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open. Okay? All this information is out there. It just takes a little work in order to dig it up and shed some light. But you know what? That's why I'm here. That's why I'm giving you the gouge. Alright? Thanks for pressing play. Thanks for listening to me. And you know what? Stay tuned for another volume of the gouge, because coming up, I'm going to a war memorial and actually showing you the proud heritage in Arlington, Texas during the Vietnam War, and the actual beautiful memorial that they have there. Plus, at the same time, I'm still working in Austin, trying to get more state senators to push the VA in order to give up more information as far as their waiting list, because you know what? Austin, Texas fell into the VA scandal, and we're still working out all those issues right now and trying to get down to the root of it. Also, come to Facebook. Check me out on Facebook and check out my foundation, the Two for Women Project. It's a veterans foundation. I've lost several brothers of mine due to PTSD, and I want to give back. And it's a very small organization. It's a very small foundation based in Dallas-Fort Worth. But you know what? I do everything that I can, and we actually do a lot of good. This summer, got a summer camp coming up for military kids. Can't wait to get out there and see it. I know they had fun last year. This year, I bet you they'll have a blast. Alright? So, thanks for tuning in, and that's your gouge.